You know that feeling of being pulled in two different directions at once? It's like you're told to be ambitious, but also be sensitive, to be competitive, but also collaborative. It's this constant internal tug of war that honestly, most of us feel. So in this explainer, we're going to dive into a way to not just manage that conflict, but to actually turn it into a huge source of strength. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to unpack that inner tug of war. Then, we're moving beyond these old school labels of vice and virtue. We'll break down 4 practical pillars for finding real balance, explore a pretty cool metaphor called the hide-and-seek game, and finally, we'll figure out what it really means to find that middle way. All right, let's start with something we all know deep down, that feeling that we have to choose between different parts of ourselves. It's a tension that quietly shapes so many of our decisions every single day. I mean, think about it, right? From the time we're kids, we're kind of presented with these false choices. Are you the competitive type or are you a team player? Are you ambitious and driven or are you sensitive and guided by your feelings? We're basically taught to pick a lane, build our identity around one thing, and push the other one down. Yeah, our world pretty much runs on this dualistic worldview. It slaps these simple labels on everything. Things like collaboration and sensitivity, those are virtues. But competitiveness and ambition, ooh, those get labeled as vices. But here's the big question. What if that whole framework is just wrong? What if ambition isn't a vice, but an essential tool for our own growth? This right here is the root of the conflict. We're trying to shove ourselves into a model that forces us to reject half of who we really are. So if that's the problem, how in the world do we solve this inner tug of war? Well, the answer is in adopting a totally new paradigm, a fresh way of seeing things that gets us beyond these rigid, really limiting labels. And that new paradigm has a name: Integrated Enlightenment. The core idea is just fascinating. It's not about getting rid of tension, it's about using it. It reframes those things we see as opposites, not as a battle between good and evil, but as the necessary tension for growth, kind of like how a muscle needs tension to get stronger. Okay, so this requires a huge mental shift. We literally have to move from an either-or way of thinking, where you have to choose to be either competitive or collaborative, to a both-and mindset. This is the logic of integration. You can absolutely be both ambitious and sensitive. You can embrace taking action and being nurturing. It's not a contradiction. This both-and idea sees our whole existence as this natural rhythm between two core states. You can think of it like a kind of cosmic dance. You've got the hide phase, where we focus on our individual self, our ego, our survival, and then you have the seek phase, where we start to remember our connection to everything else. They aren't enemies fighting each other. They're partners in the dance. So if that's the big idea, the what, then how do we actually do this in our day-to-day lives? Well, it all comes down to finding balance in 4 key areas, 4 pillars that really represent the core of the human experience. Here they are, the 4 pillars, balancing the physical with the emotional, technology with spirituality, our inner masculine and feminine energies, and Jep, you guessed it, competitiveness with collaboration. Let's dig into each one. First up, the physical and the emotional. You know, we hear a lot about mindfulness, but true wholeness isn't just up in your head. It's about honoring our body as this grounded vessel for our entire experience, our physical health and strength, while also developing a high emotional intelligence, a high EQ, to skillfully navigate the crazy world inside of us. One without the other is just an incomplete picture. Second, we've got to balance technology and spirituality. It's so easy to see tech as this cold, soulless thing. But what if we looked at it differently? What if we saw it as the collective nervous system of the entire planet? That kind of immense power needs a guide, and that's where spirituality comes in. It provides the wisdom and purpose to wield that power so it actually serves us with compassion. The third pillar is all about integrating our inner masculine and feminine energies. The psychologist Carl Jung had names for these, the animus and the anima. And the key insight is that we all have both, no matter our gender. We need that masculine energy for action, logic, and getting things done. But we also desperately need that feminine capacity for intuition, creativity, and nurturing. A truly integrated person isn't rigid or chaotic. They can tap into both energies whenever they're needed. And finally, we come back full circle to competitiveness and collaboration. In this new way of thinking, they're not good or bad. They're just tools for different stages of the journey. Competition is what sharpens our skills. It makes us better as individuals. But collaboration is what ensures those sharpened skills are then used for the good of the whole group. You could say one hones the blade and the other decides how it's used. Okay, so now let's explore a really powerful metaphor that makes these ideas feel a lot more real and tangible. Let's talk about the cosmic game of hide and seek. So the hide phase. This is when consciousness basically puts on a costume. It deliberately forgets that it's this infinite, all-connected thing so it can fully experience what it's like to be an individual. The struggle, the survival, the competition, all of it. Honestly, you could call it the universe's method acting. The whole power of the human experience comes from this kind of total immersion. I mean, if a great actor kept reminding themselves, it's just a play, it's not real, the performance would be flat and lifeless, right? The hide phase is what allows us to feel the real thrill of victory and the very real ache of loss. And then comes the seek phase. This is the moment we start to remember. It's when that larger, universal consciousness, that I am, starts peeking through the cracks in the costume of our individual ego. We begin to remember that, oh yeah, we're part of something way, way bigger. Here's a beautiful way to picture it. A single wave can spend its entire life competing with all the other waves, trying to be the biggest, the fastest, the strongest. That's the hide phase. The seek phase is that incredible aha moment of awakening, when the wave suddenly realizes its true nature. It is the ocean. It was never separate to begin with. So what's the point of this whole cosmic game? What's the ultimate goal of all this hiding and seeking? Well, that brings us to our final, and maybe most important idea, finding the middle way. Now, this next bit challenges a huge misconception about enlightenment. We often think the goal is just this blissful, totally relaxed, tension-free state. But that's not quite right. Think about a violin string. If it's completely loose and relaxed, it makes no sound at all. It's useless. But what about the other extreme? If you tighten that string too much, representing total focus on ego, on winning at all costs, on pure rigidity, it snaps. It just breaks under all that pressure. So neither extreme actually works. And this leads us to a really beautiful realization. Integrated enlightenment isn't about being loose or being tight. It's the music that gets created in that perfect high tension in between. It's the art of holding that delicate balance, of being fully, messily, beautifully human, while never forgetting that you are also the source of it all. You are both the wave and the ocean, all at the same time. So this whole thing really leaves us with a question to ask ourselves. Are we living at one extreme or the other? Too loose or too tight? Or are we actively, consciously trying to tune the strings of our own being to create that beautiful music? The question is, are you tuning your strings?